Hey friends, it's Gina. It's been a really long time since I've done any journaling and a really long time since I've done a process video. So I thought I would stop making books and start putting some art in my books that I already have. I started with my traveler's notebook. I have just a few more pages left in this insert, and I just put some blobs of paint over pages that had some notes and some newspaper clippings scribbled on them. My paint choices that I always seem to go to are turquoise, white, hot pink, and sometimes yellow. So now I'm grabbing my chalk pastels and rubbing it on the blank page on the left and then the painted page that's still kind of wet on the right. I like using chalk pastels because it adds an ethereal look to the page. It gives it like a hint of color, but it's not real blaring and bright. Sometimes I'll add it to just like the blank page. Sometimes I'll add it to paint. Here I'm going back over the paint with another pastel stick, and my stick gets a little gummy, so I had to rub the paint off of it. Then I decide that I washed my brush in my little cup of water, and I decided that the paint was too pretty to waste, so I poured it over the page before the one I was just working on. It's full of notes and some scribbles, and because it was with water-based marker, it kind of turned like a pinkish or a bluish color, which that's okay. I'm all right with that. I just went over it with some more white paint. Now this page is really saturated with paint and it's really wet, but I decided to get my chalk pastels out again and use one of the, it's like a needle point plastic. You can get them at the craft stores. And I'm just rubbing the chalk pastels over it and pressing it into the wet paint. It gives a great texture, and then it adds a nice hint of color that is, again, you know, like that pastel-y, ethereal type of look that I'm going for. I honestly have no idea where I'm going with this layout. I don't even know which page I'm going to work on. I'm just trying to get as much stuff on there as possible and then see where it goes. So here I'm doing some stamping. The WTF stamp I think I got from Paper Source a couple years ago, and then the other one, it says posted, and it's just from an office supply store. And I noticed my paper is kind of wonky and you know, not very sturdy. So I'm looking for some paper to glue on it to make it a little more thicker. So this book that I have is a book of just collage material. I bound it like I would a traveler's notebook insert, and it actually fits inside my traveler's notebook. The reason why I did this was because I was just so tired of lugging around my big bag full of paper scraps and collage materials. So, and it just gets to the point where like I have too much stuff and I don't want to create. So I made these little books, and in my mind I'm thinking that they're going to be like totally consumable. So I will, you know, eventually cut up all the paper in them and even use the string that I bound them with. I'm thinking I want to maybe make some of these after I play around with them for a while, and put them in my Etsy shop. So that's a summer project that I'm thinking about doing here in a couple weeks as soon as school ends. So now I'm just kind of looking at how fragile and flimsy that paper is. I decide that it needs a little more reinforcement. So I grab some masking tape, add a little glue to it, and just start sticking it down around the collage piece, which was a piece from a bank statement, an old bank statement that I just happened to cut off. These little scraps I have here are just cut-offs from some ledger paper. This was a ledger where the previous owners had written like their daily accounts payable. So there's a lot of numbers and dates on there. I also have a strip of vintage wallpaper. I'm obsessed with vintage wallpaper, and I like to use it whenever I can. Usually I'll use liquid glue because it's usually pretty thick and dry, but for these little scraps, I'm using a glue stick. And of course I put it someplace and then decided I didn't want it, so I moved it to a better place. So now I'm going to go back to my collage book and see if I can find some more paper. I don't realize this, but looking back in hindsight, I'm starting to collect a theme here. I have the bank statement with numbers on it, I have the ledger paper with dates and numbers on it, and then I just happen to pull a scrap from a math book that has numbers on it. You'll see that that actually materializes as my theme, and that becomes the focus of the page, numbers and bank statements and things like that. So pulling out the chalk pastels again, just brightening up the page with a little fluorescent orange. One of the things you need to make sure you do when you use chalk pastels is to rub off any of the excess powder so that you'll be able to glue things over top. So now just smoothing out the pages a little bit, going back to my collage book, looking for something that will show me what direction I'm going to go in. I'm just kind of wandering around here aimlessly. I like these pictures from this vintage catalog because I love the colors, the green and the yellow. So I go ahead and cut those out and stick them down on the left-hand side. One of the things I like to do when I'm collaging is go over whatever I've glued down with like a gift card or a debit card. It just kind of smooths it out, makes sure it has good adhesion, and it kind of scrapes off any excess glue. So that's what you see me doing there. Going back to the book, so I'm trying to find that one piece that's going to kind of start to tie this whole thing together. So I take a look at these moons on this calendar, I kind of bypass them, flipping through looking for some text. I always like book pages to see if there's some words or phrases. A lot of times I'll find the titles to my journal spreads through a book page. And then I find this deposit slip. So this deposit slip was old. It was from like the 1970s. I'm going to actually come back to that in just a second. But I go back to the book and finally decide to use my most favorite wallpaper. So this wallpaper I literally picked up off the side of the road. I love the color. I love the turquoise. I love the texture of it. This is like the holy grail of wallpaper here. And it was free. So I'm going to use liquid glue because it's pretty thick and it's pretty fragile. But I have a whole roll of this, and this would be something that I would put in those collage books I was talking about listing in my store. You know, I have a whole roll of this wrapping paper or wallpaper, but I'm pretty sure I'll never use it. So this would be something that I would put in those books so that other people could get a chance to use some of this beautiful ephemera. So a lot of times when I can't figure out where a journal page is going to go, I'll just do what I call pen work, which is just doodling, drawing little shapes. I'm pretty limited with my art skills, so hearts, flowers, circles, squares, rectangles. So I'm just kind of going around the page, adding just another layer of interest, and that's kind of what I like to do with my pencils and pens. So one of my signature things that I always try to put on a journal spread is a photograph that I've taken either of my family or of something that I have experienced. So this stack of photos that I have, I just happened to grab just a random stack. This was from 2012. It was a trip that my husband and my youngest son and I took. We went to Niagara Falls, and this was on our way back. We stopped off and spent the night in Cleveland. So we were down by the water, just goofing around and taking selfies. And this just happens to be one of those pictures. I kind of like this picture. I like it on this page. I just need to figure out how I want this placed. And it was one where I was actually laying down, so that's why it kind of looks a little weird with my hair flowing in the back. So I'm going back to my pen work, adding some interest to that wallpaper, and then I go ahead and commit to where I'm going to put my picture. So I add some adhesive and decide to stick it down in the bottom of the page and have it looking up. Go back to the deposit slip, and here's where the whole page starts to come together. I was drawn to the words on that deposit slip where it said deposit ticket. I think that's what it says. It really got me thinking about banks and deposits and having a store of money or a store of valuables that you want to keep. And that's when the journaling hit me. So here I'm journaling about, wouldn't it be cool if you could have a magic bank? And in this magic bank, you can make deposits, but not of money. You could deposit all the good times, the memories, the snuggles and cuddles of when your kids were little. So I'm kind of in a weird place right now. My kids are grown. I have one that's married, one that's in college, and one that's going to be a senior in high school. And life as a mom of adult children is a lot different than life as a mom of younger kids. And so this day I was journaling just happened to be one of those weird, awkward, not very fun days. And I just got to thinking about, wouldn't it be awesome if I could go to that magic bank and pull out one of those days where it was awesome, where, my kids loved me and wanted to be with me, and, everything was snuggles and jammies and kisses and, going to the store and buying Hot Wheels and things like that. Not all this icky adult and teenager stuff. So that's what this page became about. It became about a magic bank where you could just deposit memories. So now I'm going to go add just some paint. So you saw me just do some drops of paint. I went over the drops of paint with a black pen, and then I had an alphabet sticker sheet. So I'm putting the title on, and I'm just going to go ahead and call this Magic Bank. Sorry for the shaky table. I'm outside on my picnic table and it's a little wobbly, so every time I try to stick something down, the whole thing shakes. So with that sticker sheet, there were, this was actually a baby sticker sheet, so there were some words. I think it says hugs and kisses, happiness and joy, and then from my heart. And I thought those were fitting because to me those would be things I would want to deposit in my magic bank. And then on days like today, those would be things I would want to withdraw from my magic bank. So I put on there when I did the page, the date of the journaling, and I put the date of the picture. And yeah, I'm done. Thanks for watching, guys, and I hope you guys go and fill up your magic bank.